So I want to get started with a big picture question. Certainly there are less mega sales than in recent years overall for the luxury market, but what's your take on what you're seeing overall right now? Balance between buyers and sellers and time it's taking to move a luxury property? Yeah, you're the closest.
Should have sat on the other side. So, I mean, everybody's probably, is that better? Yeah. All right, sorry guys. So as far as the market, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of inventory. I think that there's a lot of factors at hand here. The upper price listings, I think, just don't get phased as much as you might think. As far as what's going on in the market, as far as new construction, most of my listings are relatively new builds. I think new construction still kind of leads the bandwagon here. People wanting new houses. I'm not sure they're willing to pay the premium all the time, but if it's in a good location, that takes precedent over just about everything at this point in my market.
Are you seeing a lot more demand for smaller housing today? It seems like one of the fundamental sort of long-term big picture trends for the Hamptons and so many other places is baby boomers and the downsizing. And how is that fundamentally going to reshape the market in the future? I mean, are you talking about smaller new developments? Are you talking about, what do you guys think about the prospects for the condo market in the Hamptons as well?
Well, I don't really sell a lot of condos. I don't think there's a huge market out here. I mean, the Watch Case was probably the biggest condo project, and they're still struggling, in my opinion, to make money there and get them sold out. As far as smaller houses, for example, this is one of the smallest houses at Two Trees. That was our philosophy, that people were saying some of the other houses were just too big, so we scaled it down. I think at the end of the day, the cost of building a smaller house is, pretty comparable to building something a little bit bigger. So generally, the builders take the frame of mind that why not just build something a little bit bigger, give more bang for your buck, and that works for a lot of the builders out here. Otherwise, with Two Trees, this is more of a quality, higher end construction, a little bit smaller, and I think we'll do well here.
Are you seeing that's actually advantageous for developers to build smaller because you can, you're talking about a smaller house, you'd be maximizing your price per square foot potentially?
I think it depends. I think if you offer a smaller house, you could do a little bit more quality inside the houses. I think people with a bigger family, nannies, guests, kids, build the bigger houses still kind of trump some of the smaller ones that are listed, but I think there is a general trend to find a smaller house. Yes.
And if everybody could talk really loud into the mic, that would be great. You have to go real close to this microphone. How about other people? What are you guys seeing as far as baby boomers and downsizing? Is that a real trend?
A lot of people think Can you hear now?
I put it even closer.
How about now? No? Can you hear?
I can hear. Can you guys hear?
Okay.
Oh, you got to touch.
How's that? How's that? Okay. How about I just talk loud? So I'm seeing a lot. I do a lot of the high end, and people think that's all I do, but I'm marketing Barn and Vine now, which is a lot of people downsizing, and they're downsizing from bigger houses south of the highway. We've sold 4 in the last 2 weeks. So there are a lot of that, and they bought the land very cheaply, so they can build a really nice house and be in for $3 million. So that's really very popular and very active market right now.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you guys maybe hold the mics like this, it actually works better. Just hold it straight. And projector voice. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. Moving down the rung, I think the hottest 2 markets in the Hamptons right now are Hampton Bays and Springs sub-million. That's where most of the transactions are occurring. Granted, that's not hyper luxury Hampton real estate, but that's banging. So how do you, then the new build, how do you build a new house that can go on the market sub-3? I think that's a sector that there's more buyers than there is inventory. But back to Chris's
Barn
point.
and Vine.
Yeah, that's exactly right, which is why she sold 4 in the last.
Well, that's because they bought the land a long time ago for no money. So it's hard to reproduce that.
So, but back to like, it's not just the person downsizing, it's also the baby boomer or the new young couple that wanted to spend $2 million and there's nothing to buy. So you have 2 options, either try to find something new like Barn and Vine, or else I've been selling, there's a $2 million buyer, find a 1.5 and then bring a bank in the deal with 500 and we renovate the house. So we use the 500 on the deal. So we renovate the kitchen and the bath and add a pool, and they get a $2 million house. Because if you can't find anything in the 2s, you end up with a bunch of dated postmoderns. So that's been a hook for me that's been working.
I was just going to add also that I think that a lot of people want new construction because it's a very long time period to get your permits in through the municipalities in the East Hampton and the town of Southampton. So for people that really want to enjoy its quality of life, they want to come out and enjoy the summer today, they're looking for new product.
I think the price of land has gone up so much that it's really difficult to build a smaller house and make it make economic sense. You need to go to other areas to where the land value is below so that you can build that. Building a smaller house here doesn't work because the price of land is just through the roof. That just keeps going. When you build a house, you basically, once it's built, it starts to deteriorate. It starts going down in value. What is consistently in the Hamptons, always has been, is that the land value keeps going up. And at a certain point, it doesn't make sense to build a smaller house there because there's just no return in it.
And how about, land prices is one aspect of it. How about the municipalities as far as being receptive to building more of these, communities that have smaller houses?
We don't have the zoning.
No.
Do you see that?
It would be. A lot of people have tried, including Carol Connors tried on Montauk Highway, and it's been very difficult to get that through zoning.
Do you see it changing? Because there's just going to be this huge demographic demand for it, and imagine at some point the towns
We also
relent
need
a little bit.
affordable housing in this community because the most difficult part for business owners is that they have no place to house their staff, and that's been becoming even more difficult as years go by. So each municipality is trying to get it together, but it's just going to be a long road to get the zoning.
The condo market, it takes so long to get up to speed. We have a project that's going on in the boathouse in Hampton Bays. For that project to start going, it's taken 10 years. That's kind of, it just takes too long for you to come online and to hold there. So the condo market, I think you're going to see it more and more, and hopefully the town will start changing some of the zoning because that's really, really in demand right now.
It just seems like if it's going to take 10 years to get approval for a lot more of those sorts of projects, you're going to have baby boomers that are turning 80 by the time they actually come out of the ground. But so if you have baby boomers downsizing, if you have wanting smaller places, who are you seeing as the most active buyers in the the higher end price range? Hedge funds, for example, aren't doing well. Are you seeing more tech money, for example? What kind of buyers are you seeing that are active?
I think it's still finance and tech, pretty much, don't you guys?
Totally.
I think an interesting stat, above 10, if you take 2014 to now, the highest end trades, 70% of them come from within the market. People who already own homes in the Hamptons. So if you're looking at it like that, industry is important, but you're really, I think, need to go above vocation. You can look at it from who's coming into the market, and there's still, staple families buying real estate. There's people who, no matter what industry they're in, they're liquid in some format, and the Hamptons is still a safe place to put the money. So.
They took, with the new tax law, everyone took an hiatus for the first couple of months just to kind of figure it out. What was it? And I know with my team, they all turned around, and usually I can spot things, and they go, what's going on? I go, it's the tax law. Everyone doesn't know what it really, really means. And they're readjusting. We're seeing a surge now. You're never going to make it up. You're never going to make it up. Everyone goes, oh, we'll make it up. No, you don't. And our projections this year is, and I have some spreadsheets here that are very, very interesting, absorption rates in different price ranges. How long does it take to move different properties in different price ranges? We anticipate, from my calculations that I just did before I came in here, we anticipate that sales will be off about 11% from last year as far as volume.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned tax laws. Are you starting to hear a lot of grumbling from people and people talking about, now I'm finally going to move to Florida and give up New York?
I think in the lower price point that may affect certain buyers with interest rate hikes, but I think in the higher end market they're looking for quality of life, and I don't think it affects our buyers or our sellers. And if they're buying a house in Palm Beach for quality of life, they will have a home in the Hamptons also.
Right.
I think we are seeing, I agree with that in somewhat, but I think we are seeing some of these very big hedge fund guys just saying, why am I a New York resident? I'm going to be. So I have a few of very, very high billionaires that are doing the business from Miami now. And so I've seen a little bit of a change there.
Right. I guess it just depends how much you prioritize your lifestyle versus your actual bank account.
Yeah, they have not given up their Hamptons home.
It's pretty hot in Palm Beach right now.
Just changed where they're doing their business.
Yeah.
I have an interesting story on the tax situation. This gentleman owns a big house, never mind what town, and his carrying charges, taking care of the house, are about $200,000 a year. That's just maintaining the house, mowing the lawn, et cetera, et cetera. His taxes were $180 a year. Wow. His kids are grown. So now the kids are calling mom and dad and saying, are you guys going to be out there this weekend? Because if they are, they don't come out.
Right.
So, and he's looking at doing 180,000 and plus another 200, and he's made the decision. He goes, I'm getting rid of it. Before it was only like $20,000, but now it's really did make a change on that. If you're getting whacked with big taxes.
Right. You're sitting in the city and you're writing checks for the lawn maintenance guy week after week, and you're never using it. Yeah. And Cody, you mentioned 70% of sales coming from in-market in the high end. That other 30% that's coming from outside the market, where are you seeing right now?
It's all domestic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a mix of industry. Tech is not as pervasive as everybody thinks it is, but it's coming. I think you're seeing some staple folks that have been here prior to the whole tech explosion. Mm-hmm. I think the Hamptons is a consequence, again, of lifestyle and family and connectivity to being at the beach and in your social circle, and also being reclusive. So it's not everybody comes out here just because they want to be in the scene. It's the people, I think, come from a wide array of backgrounds, have a wide array of interests, but it's mainly centered around family and being connected to the beach.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how about, lots of buyers are obviously from the city. Are you seeing, the Brooklyn buyer, which is not a huge group, but, if they're buying a second home, or maybe like a downtown Manhattan buyer and they're looking, to go to the North Fork, maybe instead of going to the Hamptons like before, are you seeing any of that? Do you think the North Fork's going to be a long-term competitor to the Hamptons?
Ocean.
It's the ocean that they come for. You have right now, like Hampton Bays, we were looking at it for a long time, and Hampton Bays it's like Brooklyn. So what you're getting is that the first people who moved out to Brooklyn, they couldn't really afford it. They were in the frontier. The hipsters are discovering Hampton Bays, East Quogue, west of the canal, because they can afford it. And the whole structure of it's changing the whole landscape, totally.
I'm not sure I totally agree with Enzo here. I think a lot of at least my customers are coming from renting out here year after year, and their families, and they're all in New York City. I agree with that. I'm not sure Hampton Bays, Quogue, East Quogue, the taxes there are extremely high. I think
It's just different markets, that's all. They all here, we have the same market here that we've had all the time.
Yeah, but
Just different people coming in. It's price point.
But the number of sales in those areas in Quogue, East Quogue, I mean, we've got a new development in East Quogue for $1.3 million for brand new house on an acre, 4 bedrooms, unheard of. And, you know, when I took the listing, I figured, wow, it's the cheapest thing going on that's new construction anywhere in the Hamptons. And we finished all 4 models. We've got 1 sold. It's been, you know, going on 4 months.
Different world.
So
Different price point. It's not, you can't compare that and this together. There's a separate market on this side of the canal and on the other side. What's being driven is that what you can afford. How much money do you have in your pocket that you can spend? If you want to be in the Hamptons, you have to make a choice. And the choices are on this side, absolutely. The price point is way up there, and it's not changing. It's going up. On the other side, it's going up. That's what's happening over there. You know.
We're also seeing some big development from end users in the Quogue market. I mean, there's some big houses going up, and those buyers or end users are really the people that don't want to deal with the traffic. They want closer proximity to the city. I mean, we're all seeing that.
Mm-hmm. I have a listing in Quogue. We have over 20 offers all the time, and if it were to trade, it'd be the highest sale for a single-family residence in the history of west of the canal. The owner is reluctant to just take a bid just for taking a bid. He knows what he has. So I do think there's an evolution there. It's probably not going to have the same quantitative velocity, but I do think bang for the buck, should someone want lifestyle of, again, beach and just a little more simplistic rather than being in the scene or maybe having a different lens of investment. You know, I think you're going to see evolution given the custom homes being built, not so much the speculative homes.
I think we're also seeing a lot of our market is being driven by value, no matter where you are, that side, this side. I think it's really value driven. I hear it from the billionaires. I hear it from the $1 million buyers. We want to get a good deal. So that's really, and everything is starting to trade. I think it's going to be a busy summer, but you have to price correctly. That's a very big issue.
Where do you see the value plays in the prime markets? Where do you see value plays in, you know, the East Hampton, Southampton, you know?
You just have to price right. The ones that used to be 10 years ago, you did not want to be the reduced property. Now the people just say, has it been reduced?
Yeah.
They want a special deal, and if they find it, they'll buy it. Otherwise, they'll wait and they'll look at the market, and that's really where we are.
Back to trends. So I think the momentum from the hypothetical Brooklyn buyer went to Montauk 3-4 years ago and bid it up. I think we bid Montauk, the 500s went to 700, went to 900 for a little JCPenney house in Cloden. And I think it's overrun, and I think now they're doing a U-turn and coming back into East Hampton. So I think there's value in the Village Fringe. I think there's value in the Woods. I think Springs is a different market, but it's never been busier. So
Yeah. What happened to where are prices in Montauk now relative to when that kind of...
I think the 5s went to 7 and the 7s went to 9, and then the 9 kind of saw a cap, and everyone said, oh, it's not really worth 9, and we're coming back. Yeah, then they're coming back into East Hampton.
Oh, God, yeah, right.
But we're seeing some record trades on Cleveland. That 6-3 trade was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a huge fan of Montauk. I think it's got, you know, a lot of legs left, but we don't have any quality builds in Montauk. You know, that's the difference. In East Hampton, there's 40.
It's also fewer
houses.
buyers because it's just that far, much further out.
Yeah. I think there's value in building from land. I really think there's a way to do that. You know, I have an oceanfront right now with, you know, builder permits in place, and that all of a sudden turned on. Where it didn't have permits, it was no action. Now all of a sudden he got the permits, he's ready to build, and I'm getting calls. So to me, I like the oceanfront value, and then you get to participate in the upside of, you know, being the builder. You hire the builder, you work on it, and you get a chance to go long. I think there's value in doing that.
Lori, what was that big trade you were talking about?
Oh, it's a trade it was an off-market deal on Cleveland, what did it trade for? 6.3, 6.2 or 6.3, and that's in Hither Hills, and that's a pretty good number for Montauk.
What was the previous kind of benchmark?
Two
you saw
trades
there?
on Cleveland got done in the 6s, but that's really rare. That's like Amagansett
really
4 years ago when they were getting 5s, and no one ever thought, you know, Farrell would get 5s on the lanes, and now he blew all that out, and people are still getting 5s and 6s in the lanes. So the fact that Cleveland got a trade in the Amagansett price point is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you guys a quick summary, I did a quick search right before I got here, just in our system, which is an OREC system, and I started from May 1st till now, and there was 260 houses in contract. I broke it up into two categories. One was East Hampton, and the other was Southampton. East Hampton went from Wainscott all the way to Montauk, and the Sagaponack going all the way to Southampton. I didn't include Hampton Bays, and I didn't include Shelter Island. So I think one of the questions you mentioned was what areas kind of hopping, or where does the trend seem to be going? And granted, this is just for the 3 months starting May 1st, but the interesting thing that I saw, I don't do a lot in the low end, so I just started between $2 and $3 million. East Hampton wins for that category. There was 14 deals in contract, which I thought was interesting. I never would have thought that. Southampton wasn't that far behind with 11 homes in contract. Then the second winner, which was tied for East Hampton, $2 to $3 million, was the Bridgehampton, Watermill, Sagaponack area, $4 to $6 million. There was 14 deals in contract. And granted, those were the asking prices, not so much what they actually went into contract for. And then after that, East Hampton area between 6 and 8 million. East Hampton wins with 6 to 8, with only 4 in Southampton. So it seems to me it's an interesting shift. Like, I never would have thought that there would be so many homes in the $2 to $3 million market in the East Hampton area that actually went into contract. And I'm not a big East Hampton broker. But
East Hampton's also above 10 this year. It's leading the pack as well.
Well, that was I broke it up actually. I found, you're right, East Hampton over $15 million. There was 2 deals, and over $15 million in the Southampton there was 3. So they're actually pretty close hand in hand. What really seems surprising to me is between 10 to 12 or 12 to 15 there was no deals. So that just kind of solidifies what everybody's been saying, that the 10 to 12 or the under the 15 mark is really feeling a little bit of a crunch. Southampton, there was a couple deals this year, 12 to 15 million, and same 10 to 12, there was 1. So that's a soft market.
That's great. I also want to talk a little bit about brokerage. Lori, you went to Compass, and I want to know, like, what did they sell you on, and then have they delivered? And then I want to hear everybody else's take on Compass and the market and what they think, since it's kind of this disruptor.
Well, I love Compass. I think that the word that comes to mind is collaborative. And I think that from my background, I was in the family office business and was a trusted advisor to many high net worth families, and spent a lot of time hiring a lot of brokers in my career. And then I went into the capital raising business. And what I think the key to success in brokerage is being collaborative. And I look at my esteemed fellow panelists up here, and I can tell you that when I got into this business full time, Cody and Zach took me out and they showed me an area that I didn't know in their car. They showed me all the comps. They were so collaborative. Enzo, every time I see him, how are you doing? You want to have lunch? Susan, I'll text her at 11 o'clock at night, she'll answer. And I think collaboration amongst brokers is so critical. And I think that Compass to me is like a family, and they're very hands-on, they're very collaborative, besides all the technology and their growth. The leadership is always around.
Right. What is the technology that really helps? And also, just everybody, they sent me a reminder to just speak into the mic and hold it up like this. Yeah.
I think the tools that they're building are not utilized as much in the Hamptons because of we don't have a true MLS system, so it's not something that I use as much. But from what I understand from the rest of the country, they've been very helpful both on the agent side for data, because I think when we talk about how do we help sellers understand the market, and some of the things that you've heard Enzo and Chris speak about, and Susan also spoke about it, is that sellers need to understand data so that they'll be more realistic in their pricing. And if you give them real data, that will help them tremendously.
What do you guys think about Compass and its presence in the market? And yep, Cody.
I think you have to look at brokerage two different ways. One is a conventional model, which I think Compass still follows, even though, and not meaning to give offense to anybody who's with Compass, I think they've done a fantastic job, and they really do have a good sense of community, and in the Hamptons especially, a lot of great people. But I think a lot of the brokerage business is the same thing, and brokerage is the Douglas Ellimans, Sotheby's, Corcorans of the world. They look at their assets in their agents. They provide value to their agents, and a lot of people are agents here. But the brand of these brokerages is really driven to give value to the agents to go do their job to provide it to the end user. So the end user, in my opinion, based upon what I've seen and why Bespoke exists, is to somewhat eliminate that chain of events and give value directly to the consumer, whether you're on the buy side or whether you're on the list side. I think inherently the business model silos off even as much collaboration that happens when it comes time to do a deal and there's brass tacks. Inherently, we all compete against each other as much as we all friends. So we're not sharing information across our corporate meetings and saying, like, I have a great buyer, but I also have it for my listing. I'm not going to tell Lori that I have a great buyer for her listing because it's counterintuitive for me. Yeah. So I think you really have to look at where the business is going and look at where the consumers are going, and they're going directly towards who has the listing. They're looking at the buy side of the equation and saying, like, how am I driving as much value out of this dance as possible? And information is becoming much more robust, and the broker wants to give as much information as they possibly can. But ultimately, the people who we sell homes to are very smart. They're well informed. They do diligence, and they have dossiers run on the people that they're buying homes from. So it's hard to inform someone who feels that they're already informed. So unless you're giving value in a highly nuanced way, it's challenging to be in a position where you inherently have to not only compete against your own company, but also the marketplace and the consumers that you're trying to provide value for. So I think there's disruption happening across the entire spectrum. And instead of looking at the glitz and the software and the glamour, look at how the entire architecture of the business is really set up and where it needs to go to adapt to where the times are.
Right now, when we look at competitors, there's too many brokers. There's just too many salespeople. There's just too many. It cannot be sustained. I think what all the companies are trying to do is where they were, we want to grow. What they're looking for is good brokers, because when you're looking at the marketplace, there's a pie there, And in order for you to go to the table and take something, you have to take it from someone. Just because you double the amount of agents that you have doesn't mean that you double the market. So you have to be competitive and to be there. There's too many brokers. I think there's going to be a shakeup because it's insustainable.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think the elephant in the room here is not, I agree with both of your thoughts, but I think Zillow's the one thing we should all be talking about, because Zillow's moving into the point business real soon, and it's a matter of how do you control that, because we used to want listings so that we got buyers. Now the buyers just show up at the open house with no notice, no awareness, and they're doing the trade, and they want to save the point right then. So they're looking for a 4-point trade because I'm the lister.
Right now you're looking at Zillow, with a big transformation happened there. At first, everybody joined in, and they go, with Zillow. And we moved along really quick. My team is pretty quick. We like to be first ones in, and we like to be the first ones out of technology, because when everyone catches on to it and it becomes common, then everybody has the same advantage. So we have to look what's next. You can't have all the agents on Zillow. Everybody is rated 5 stars. It's impossible. It's like you go to New York and say, I'm going to go to a restaurant, and which one do I choose? Well, they're all rated 5.
It's because they're paying for it.
If you have an exclusive listing, someone else shows up. And it's the irony is that a lot of the people that are getting the inquiries from Zillow, at least in a lot of the homes that I represent, they don't even have
Yeah.
any
They have no clue
idea.
where- they
So
don't even
it's
know
almost
where
a
it is.
blessing to me because then they show up at the house and the broker's like, they don't even know where
Right.
they're coming from. And I'm just like, thank you. So
Yeah.
thank you, Zillow. And
Oh.
But it's definitely pervasive to the entire industry and how it's shifting.
Well,
And the
the
people have
public
no
are-
idea. That's what's really scary is the people that are clicking on the Zillow, they have no idea they're not getting the listing agent. So they're asking questions, and these people have no idea how to answer them. They don't even know where the property is. So
And they're all
not
smartening up.
conducive to.
They're smartening up now because when you get a lead from Zillow, the other day, one of my agents got a lead, and we don't take it seriously anymore. I don't. I believe that Zillow, I think a lot of the agents, it's insustainable for an agent to pay that kind of money, and then the market keeps going up. It's almost like it feels like a Ponzi scheme. And people that are there continuously, in order for you to go, they just add more and more people to it. The guy called, and he was talking to Greg, who works for me, and Greg, you get surprised because you don't know what it is, and Greg turns around, and the guy goes, he goes, you're not the listing agent? And Greg goes, no. And he goes, well, why the hell am I talking to you? And he hangs up. Because they didn't know that. The public has finally figured it out, and I think us, within our listings, we have a lot of listings, so you'll get the quality calls. A lot of the stuff that comes from Zillow is nonsense.
Right.
I think they're coming, though. Technology, Zillow may be the name, and it's not so much how you're looking at it today. I think you have to look at it, what the iterative nature and the effect it's going to have on the brokerage business in general. I think we're seeing the beginning of a paradigm shift in the way that we transact and do business, not only as brokers, but as consumers. I think all of us can put ourselves in the shoes of our clients, and we bought real estate ourselves. You look at what the process is, it's no longer what it was. So there's an adaptation that needs to be really taken seriously.
Right. One thing that seems to be happening on the West Coast, which the real deal is out in LA, is a lot of brokers are doing pocket listings and keeping them close to the vest rather than listing. I don't know if that's happening out here at all.
Well, Zillow bought our MLS system, so if you put a property in RealNet or Orex, it's almost like you're forced to advertise it on Zillow. It's crooked in so many ways, but you're handcuffed to a degree if you want to be competitive. If you have a select portfolio, you could certainly go that route. And the nature of off markets in general in the Hamptons is shifting, whereas it once was really prominent, particularly on the super high end, and it's dissipating. So I think you have to be a really proactive salesperson and marketer and be in the flow with the right people who are looking at the tail end of their experience, who are looking for off markets because they've exhausted what is on the market. But in a general sense, the way we operate out here from a multiple listing system and how it impacts Zillow, it's not necessarily the most beneficial for the consumer, and it's certainly not beneficial for the community of brokers.
I just want to say one thing. Technology is going in such a fast pattern. Like this year alone, I did 3 rentals sight unseen, meaning $100,000 rental, 2 months, and it was just Ed walk through with a camera, film
I did
it.
one today for $150,000 for 6 days, sight unseen.
Sight unseen. So we're walking through with the camera. I film it. I Dropbox it. I send it to him.
Yeah.
That's good. You like it. You trust it. We're good. I think that's what's going to happen. Next 3 to 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm doing house deals.
One last thing to add. Sorry, I'm passionate about the topic. If my clients who have a $37 million house or $55 million house, think about it from their perspective, somebody who has no idea about their property or the nuances or the ins and outs, if you're selling an oceanfront property, how FEMA impacts it and what the municipal regulations are and how big of a house you could build and who the neighbors are, the person who's fielding that inquiry has no idea about the house. So if I own a $55 million property, I'm pissed because, how dare somebody who I didn't hire, I could have, but I didn't, they're the one who is being the first point of contact for my house.
And what's really bad is the people that are, I don't know if any of you all are those listing brokers, or whatever they are, premier agents. They're usually the brokers that don't know anything and need business so badly, so they don't even have any kind of knowledge or experience at all.
The brokers are cannibalizing themselves. It's like Zillow's perfect because They take brokers and they make them punch themselves in the face so they can get leads.
I think the world's going to catch on, though. I think it's going to turn more into a trusted advisory role, which we all are, and it should be that. And I think that people are going to realize, for all these reasons that Cody and everyone just
and people
mentioned.
say brokerage is getting outdated. I think there's always going to be, if you have knowledge, you work hard, you have knowledge, and that's what people want. If I'm buying in another part of the country, I want to get a person who's knowledgeable, that's been doing it for a while, that knows what's trading, knows the ups and downs of every property, and that's who I want to deal with.
Big investments.
Yeah. And you want,
you know
want somebody
Zillow,
to advise you.
One of the things I do like about Zillow, it's a phenomenal resource to do research. It's phenomenal.
I mean, data's not accurate.
Enzo.
I know, but just in sales for anybody.
What about
in
the
sales,
What about the Zestimates? They're not accurate. I know the owner of Zillow. His father was my client. I've talked to him in Seattle, saying, you're not good in the Hamptons. You don't. Your Zestimates are all wrong.
Oh, well, the Zestimate.
Their mission statement is to wipe out the broker.
Forget that. But
very simple.
It used to be 50% off or wrong.
And I think people are very
20%.
smart, and we are trusted advisors, and I think that's always going to remain.
I guess you can see, if the consumer has a bad experience on these sites, eventually that would, imagine, catch up to the sites, and then there'd be alternate listings platforms that would be more.
It's AOL how we're seeing it now, and eventually it'll become Google and Facebook, and it's beginning to impact our business as, again, architecture. So I think there's a lot bigger things that no one's really paying attention to at the undertone. The way we do business is going to shift probably very soon on a lot of different levels, from a brokerage level, take town, for example, from a technology impact. Like it's really interesting times in this business of brokerage.
I think it's going to evolve into fewer agents. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yep.
Do you think the mid-sized firms are the most vulnerable? Because what's happened, you mentioned Town Residential, and there's another firm in New York City, Eastern Consolidated, on the commercial side, both mid-sized players, and they just abruptly shuttered in the last month or two.
I think brokerage business, being an owner of a brokerage, I understand it. The brokerage business makes the majority of their money on the lower end deals, the agents who have 50-50 splits, 55, 60, whatever it may be, and they're doing 1 or 2 deals a year, and there's an army of agents who are supporting the company. Most people on this panel are lost leaders for their company, or break-evens, or they're juicy hooks for other agents to come in. So I think you're looking at the financial statements of brokerage business. If Zillow and other technology platforms are coming at the low end, and they're changing the way buyers are approaching real estate, that segment of the business gets impacted. That's a lot of meat on the capital stack of these brokerage firms.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to open it up to the audience. We'll do 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
It's the most beautiful place in the Hamptons.
Anybody? I have one more question if nobody has a question. So I want to talk about commissions. What are you seeing in a market with commissions like this? And buyers are obviously always, sellers are always trying to, get you to go down on commission, eat away at whatever you guys are going to get paid. Being the top of the top in the Hamptons as far as brokers, how do you what sort of rebuttals do you offer? How do you hold fast on commissions when you can?
I try to show them my value beyond just saying I do a lot of deals and this is my statistics. I go down the line of the value chain and say why choosing Bespoke will guarantee you the following effort, energy, value propositions, processes, systems, XYZ. But the reality is I work for my clients on both sides, and I have to adapt to my clients' needs. And sometimes the commissions can be really high because there's incentive, and other times they can be compressed because the deal structure looks a little different. But I think in general, commissions are going to be compressed, so we as brokers need to look at the value that we can provide to the process of buying or selling or marketing or whatever it is, and stay really true in quantifying that value, because sometimes you're going to lose and sometimes you're going to be amazing at what you do. So in the end, it comes to a wash. But when you're talking, you're selling $50, $60 million homes or $2 million homes, like it's still a good chunk of change. So we need to find some rhythm of how we provide the value to our consumers, our clients.
I think it's also important to let your sellers know that you're really, when you're a listing agent, you're really partnering with that seller. And if a seller tries to reduce your commission so much, what's going to happen is it's unlikely that they'll sell that property, because we're in business too. We're all in our own businesses. And if we don't have the margin that's going to make sense, it's really a business situation that I try to explain to the sellers is like, I have to put in as much advertising as is going to be required to sell your property. And my time, I have to be rewarded just like you have to be rewarded. Otherwise, it's not a good business decision for us to take on the listing.
We just turn around lately, what we've been doing, we just say no. They look at us, they go, you want to lower it? I go, no. They go, why? I go, I don't. Go get someone else. You're not giving me the right price. If they give me the right price and I can get rid of it, I'm okay. I'm negotiable. When you're not giving me the right price and then you want to take the commission away, we just look at them, see you later.
Does that do the trick? Or
No, I
most
think
of the time?
it always works with me when I just explain, this is business. We're not doing this just because we like to work 7 days a week.
Are you talking
24 hours
about
a
the
day.
commission when you're listing something, or you're talking about when you're cutting when you're
when you're a listing agent? It's a lot of people don't realize when you're a listing agent, you have to spend a lot of money to advertise that property. You have to spend a lot of time, and it's a business decision to take on a listing.
If you don't have that extra point or two, when it comes down, we're taking a listing. When we're doing a deal, we're all very pragmatic. I know this group, And there, if you have the extra point, that's the difference to you making the deal and not, because you can patch things up. Ultimately, at the end of the deal, a lot of these things, I don't care what price range, it comes up to a couple of $1,000 here, give or take. If you have that point, you can seal it. If you don't have it, you can't.
I think that's totally correct. I tell people, why are we having this discussion now? When we get a deal and we have somebody close, my commission is not going to become in the way of you selling your house.
So you'll hold fast on the front.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, I want to wrap it up there before thankfully nobody fainted. We survived the heat. And I want to thank everybody for coming out today, and thank these guys. Thank you.